Hi and welcome back to my channel for another art journaling video, and this is one more video with the theme how to overcome an art block. I have some strategies what to do when I have no mojo or no ideas, and I would like to share one of them with you today. The first thing you have to do is go to Pinterest and search for some color palettes. I have made some journal notes with my brand new stamp set journal notes, and I have made 4 sets so far, and as you see, you don't need that stamp set. You can also use just a blank card and draw your rectangles to add in the colors. And what we will do is we will pick one of the palettes and create an art journal page with a recipe, and we will write the recipe down onto our note card. And whenever you have no idea what to do, you can use that recipe and play with it. I have used my watercolors to paint the palette down. You can use any colors you have on hand. And when I have 2 colors mixed together, I have noted that down, so I know what to use later. Some of you might think that every page will look the same when we create with a recipe and that this is no art. No, that's not true. We work on the techniques and we learn techniques, and everybody used these techniques in a different way, and every page will look completely different from the other. This is the color palette I will work with today, and I will work in my mini envelope art journal. I have a tutorial over on YouTube, and I will link this up in the top right corner info box so you can recreate the same journal, because I plan to make several videos in this journal with a recipe. So, okay, let's start. Pick one of the colors from your palette. It doesn't matter which one you use. I would recommend maybe not the darkest, because we will create the background with it. And then go through your stash and search for papers, leftovers, magazine cutouts, and we will create the background with a collage. I have already started. I have picked some different pattern papers in a yellow-orange. I've also added 2 stickers that I've printed with my computer from an old art journal page, and I glue this down with gel medium. In the next step, we are blending everything with gesso. Use a palette knife to create an interesting texture. You can of course use a brush, but especially the palette knife creates these interesting shapes with the gesso. An alternative would be to use an old credit card. Don't cover everything, just some areas, and some get more gesso and some get a little less gesso, and that makes it look more interesting. It increases the contrast and gives your page some depth. Now it's time to work with our second color. I plan to use the red one together with a stencil. First, I have noted down the steps we have done so far, so I don't forget about it. I have stamped the word recipe and number to my card. These are also stamps that come with the stamp set. It's available over at Rubber Dance, and it's 10% off until next Sunday. I've picked a bigger stencil. It's from Stencil Girl, and I use it with a sponge. In my next step, I'm creating the next two colors from our color scheme. It's a Paints gray and a little bit lighter bluish gray. So this is our next step. Use your third and fourth color and apply it to your page just with your fingers. I'm using two different colors to mix both of the colors I want to have because I don't have them directly from the tube, so I have to mix them. I recommend that you pick not complementary colors in this stage because they will mix a gray or brown, or you be very carefully with them. In my next step, I go in with gesso and a palette knife directly into the wet paint to create the last color of my palette. I used white to create the lighter gray. Of course, if you have another fifth color, you just use this one and wipe it into the wet paint. I feed set everything with my heat tool and then go in with a black watercolor pencil. I make some art marks on the page, and this is what makes your page look very unique and different from every other. You create your own marks. Just try some shapes, just do what you like. That doesn't have to be very complicated, it just has to be something simple. To create that deep black line, I dip the nib of my watercolor pencil into water so I get that nice black color. Now let's add some texture to the page. Pick any kind of text stamp you have on hand and use the second color you have used on your page. So this is the red one for me. And just stamp the text randomly. This can be also single words. It has just to be some texture in the end, and it doesn't really matter what image your stamp has. I pick another text stamp with smaller words, and now I use black ink to increase the contrast of the page. I'm using StazOn inks because they work best on acrylic paint, as they dry the fastest. During the process, we lost a lot of our first color, so this is the time to come back with it. To create these many layers, add a lot of more dimension to your artwork. This time I am using the paint just with a brush, and I thin it down with water to add some splatters. Splatters always makes a page look very more vibrant. I also use my second color again and add some splatters with it as well. Now that we've used all the colors from our color scheme, I like to add a little bit more interest to the page by adding some collage papers. I have picked the one from the previous video from the series that I have created with watercolors, and I've scanned it to the computer and made a printable from it so I can use it on my pages. You can use any pattern paper you have laying around. I cut some shapes and lay it onto my page and see if it fits and if I like the result. For my main image, I'm picking a flower stamp from Rubber Dance. You can use any main image you like to use, and I stamp it directly to my collage paper I've picked for the page. You can use any kind of flower. You can use a butterfly, for example, that will work as well. If you don't have a collage paper where you can stamp your main image on, you can just stamp it to watercolor paper and color it in with some matching colors. I would recommend to use colors that are already on your page. That makes the page look even more cohesive. Before I glue down my flower, I use a Uni Posca marker and draw a stem and some leaves for it. I'm using liquid glue to stick down the flowers, and finally I'm creating a sentiment from cutout words that I've stamped with the Rubber Dance Mixer Sentiment stamp sets. And don't forget to note down all your steps, so in case you need some inspiration, you can always pick that recipe, choose some other colors and another main image and recreate a similar page. On the other side of my little note card, I will list the materials I've used. And first off, I stamp a header which says materials. This is also a stamp that comes with the set. And then I start listing all the tools I've used on this page. Now you can stick your card to your page with a washi tape, or what you can do, what I will do, is write down the number on the right bottom corner and use that envelope from the envelope art journal to store your recipe cards. And don't forget to click on the top right corner info box. There you will find a video tutorial for this journal. This was my video for today. Please tell me in the comments if you enjoy these kinds of videos and if you want to see more of them. Thank you so much for watching today and see you next time. Bye!